Arteta! What a strike! What a screamer! Zola! And a fantastic goal! Arsenal back in it! And here's Limpar, lines it up, finds the net. Arsenal in front.
What's the best thing about mispronouncing the head coach's name all season long? It means you can do this. We've got Ozil, Mesut Ozil. I just don't think you understand. He's Unai Emery's man. He's better than Zidane. We've got Mesut Ozil. This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot Smith, and you can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. That's right. I've been building on this. I've been pronouncing it Emery all season long, just so that when Mesut Ozil had a stormer, like he did against Leicester tonight, I could do that song, and I did, and I'm proud of it, and I'm happy for it. And here to celebrate it with me is Clive. You can find him on Twitter at ClivePAFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Hello, indeed. And also joining us, you can find him on Twitter at Posin in My Pants, where he is often praising Chelsea players. Paul. Hi, Paul.
Oh, maybe I got on the wrong. I thought we were doing the Giroud spotlight edition.
No, I bet
today.
you did. You know what? We can do it in the spotlight on Olivier Giroud, all in good time, my friend. But tonight is a night for celebrating the Arsenal. Woo-hoo. It is Project 3. Project 3. 21 points out of 21 points, just like I predicted we would do. That's why I named it Project 21, but Clive named it Project 24, and we are hoping we can get there. We are most of the way there. It is really sensational. It was not the best first half. It was an extraordinary second half. We will have Scott down the line for a very brief stat section, which will be helpful because in this instance, there was no winning ugly. This was winning pretty, although it took a while to get there. Let's start with the lineup. And Paul, I'll start with you. I mean, look, all things being equal, I love Aubameyang. I want him to start every match, but I've come to terms with the fact that that's just not how Emery sees it, and he's earned the right to have my patience, if not everybody's patience. We'll see. And so Aubameyang starts on the bench, but Mesut Ozil is restored to the number 10 position, alongside or with Mkhitaryan and Iwobi flanking him. Really a more natural position for him. Obviously, we can get to Lichtsteiner and the problems we had with him at left back. Really, that was a last resort. We didn't have an option there. And it got so bad, in fact, that we played without a left back, essentially, for the second half. But basically, where I want to start with this is Mesut Ozil. I don't know that he was in vintage form in the first half, but he was on the ball a lot more. He was a lot more integral to what we were doing, to the buildup. He was flitting into those spaces. You know, seeing him restored to that number 10 position, that's the story of this game, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It caught my eye just before the game. Cullen Davies of Arsenal video fame mentioned how when Ozil is played as 10 at the Emirates, he pretty much comes away with the man of the match. 9 times out of 10. That's probably a slight exaggeration, or probably he overstated it. But as we kind of roast them on a spit in the second half with Ozil pulling the strings, that tweet came back to me. It was just absolutely delicious. Ozil at the 10. You mentioned Aubameyang. I kind of got him not starting this time around. I mean, he has been starting just on the left, but with Lichtsteiner at left back, I think maybe we saw why the coach might have been somewhat conservative in the lineup, putting not Aubameyang ahead of him, but a couple of players who, in theory at least, could handle the wide position and do the graft going both ways. So I kind of understood the lineup. But yeah, I mean, playing Ozil at the 10, him playing out of his socks, I mean, that's his best performance that I can remember in recent times. Wearing the captain's armband, maybe he grew into that. He still hasn't got out of the habit of just passing it into the net. If he scores, it's a pass. I just think we should put the strikers in the two corners of the nets so he has people to pass to behind the goalkeeper that take
if they step over it, will we get the offside call or not? I mean, that's really all we have to figure out there. If they dummy it into the goal, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
but, just great stuff.
Just so you know, this isn't in hindsight, too. I mean, literally, I keep a little notepad on my phone of things to discuss on the podcast, and then I forget to open it during the podcast and just talk about whatever pops into my mind. So, best laid plans and all that. But the very first thing I wrote for this match is Ozil 10 looks so much more comfortable. And he really did, and I thought it was noticeable. Let's just spend a second.
Can I just add to your point? I did actually think he was really good in the first half, not the levels of the second half, but I liked what he was doing, popping in, dropping in. I think there's a really nice balance with Torreira, Xhaka, and hopefully with Ozil at the 10, if we see this going forward. I think they moved to each other really well, better than I've seen at Arsenal this season, and I think maybe why we were so fluid. The understanding of those three, and when Ozil dropped in to receive the ball was delicious. I hope we talk about Torreira. I thought his positioning was
not even a little
spectacular.
Bit. No intention of mentioning him at all. He was our leading passer in the match and also our leading defensive player, but no mention at all. Clive, look, I know we talked about it on the halftime show. Not everybody will have listened. Those of you who did join us, though, thank you. It was a lot of fun. We carry on the tradition of winning every game that we do a halftime show for, so that's good. So, Clive, let's just quickly talk about Lichtsteiner, though. I mean, we didn't have Nacho Monreal, we didn't have Kolasinac, we didn't have Maitland-Niles, so we had to play Lichtsteiner there. I mean, look, he's not a left back, and he hasn't looked that great at right back when he's played there, but he is an experienced international, and am I entitled to be a little disappointed with the performance? I mean, overall, I thought he was pretty mediocre in this game. I mean, I definitely think we're seeing that his usefulness at the club is going to be maybe even more limited than we had suspected. But how big a problem was the left fullback position for us tonight?
I think the problem was not having a left footer on the left-hand side, and we saw that when Xhaka moved over there. I mean, who would have thought a manager would have put probably our slowest player at left back on a booking? Right? No, we didn't talk about that at halftime, did we? Right? So I think that's a genius move. So why has he done that, and what's the difference? I think our eyes are conditioned now to seeing the ball move quickly. So once we got rid of our early game rust, we started to move the ball quickly. We looked more intense. But when he went to Lichtsteiner, he had to receive it on his front foot, move it to his back foot, whip it back round to his right foot. 3 touches, pop it off, and run into a space where no one was marking him. That took the whole momentum away. And that just shows you that really, we spoke the other week about playing what we see. Mm-hmm. That basically means playing what we see. Play the first time ball, pop, really quickly, nice and direct. Play the overload when you see it. First pass when you see it, and move off the spot, different line. When a player's having 2 or 3 touches, the whole rhythm goes. Everybody's made their run, or they don't make their run. They wait for him to get his shoulders correctly round because he's playing on his wrong foot. And so it's difficult to judge him. I think it's just the difficulty of the position and how it affects our flow. And Xhaka goes in there. He just receives on his back foot, pushes it first or second touch. And suddenly we've got a player that I thought we should have come off at half-time because he was looking that bad. Just moved him out of the way a little bit. And he's now, pushing our passing from that position really quickly. We've got balance all over the pitch. It's really amazing how important this is. And I tweeted out and said, imagine if we had a left-footed centre-half. I think it'd make a huge difference to this team. To have the right people on the right foot in the right areas is really important. Don't dismiss it. And I think we saw that with Lichtsteiner. No matter how valiant he tried, it just didn't look quite right. And then as soon as he removed, we were up and running.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's maybe one of the reasons why we've missed Santi Cazorla so much is because he was so two-footed. I mean, the one thing that made him very hard to press is there was no weaker foot to press him onto, which is not the case with Xhaka, obviously. Yeah, the Lichtsteiner thing wasn't great, and I think they had a really good counterattack that came from actually a transition where we had good build-up going forward, and Lichtsteiner just had to play a little 3-yard pass to Iwobi on the flank, and he just gave it away because it was on his weaker foot. So that wasn't a great part.
We have to remember he's not playing that much. And every time he comes in, we expect him to be great. It's really hard for someone a little bit older to find their level when you're playing every 4 weeks. Really hard, right? So I think I'm winning. I looked at the end of the game, when the subs all came on, and he looked as happy as us. Right? So, and I think that's great. And I would love, I don't want to dismiss him. I wonder what the impact he's having in the dressing room, because he's a serious individual, right? And we used to have one called Jens Lehmann, very much like him, a serious winning individual.
Also crazy.
And I think he's having, I would hazard a guess, he's having a major impact to our team spirit in our dressing room.
Yeah, the spirit is definitely good. You can tell that. I have no way of knowing, obviously, whether Lichtsteiner contributes to that in a significant way. Let's hope so. From a playing standpoint, maybe not going to make the impact we might have hoped just in terms of the quality he brings on the pitch. But if he's helping in the dressing room and helping Bellerin learn the game, then that's certainly important.
And he was decent as a left back the last time he played. I can't remember the game. It was probably about 6 weeks ago, but I thought he was okay. That much better performance than this one. So, as Clive says, we shouldn't be too harsh on him. He's doing the job he's asked to do. It's not his job.
This was a selection of last resort, so I don't think it needs to be overindulged, despite the fact that we like to overindulge certain topics on this podcast. One thing that I think has definitely started to happen is, guys, there have been a lot of times this season where we've come on this podcast and said we can't really make out what the system is. What is the Emery system? And that is definitely starting to take shape, at least against, I was going to say smaller teams. I mean, Leicester is a good side, but in this run of wins, we have played this 4-4-2 out of possession with this box in midfield, staying compact and narrow through the center, blocking off build-ups through the center of the pitch, channeling things out to the wings, and then building inside out with more direct play when we get the ball. And I think it's been really interesting to watch. It turns into a 4-2-3-1 in possession, I think it would be fair to say. Paul, I mean, is that how you see it? And would you say that now we have a little more clarity on the system that Emery is settling on?
Yeah, but I have this very strong feeling it's not hugely different to what Arsene did. I mean, it's somewhat different in execution. And it's with some players better suited to the system. One of my frustrations with Arsene was he just didn't pull the trigger on getting the players he needed together at the same time during the summer windows. And, Torreira, how cohesive would we have looked if we hadn't got the Torreira piece in place? Now, there's definitely subtleties of how we play it, and we're really getting Bellerin forward. I was delighted to see Mkhitaryan on, but I think we saw in the second half, it ain't just down to Mkhitaryan that Bellerin's getting forward. Other players have got the memo that we're cutbacks FC. And the frustration in this game could have been that we only had one wing that was doing the cutbacks because Lichtsteiner wasn't going to get up there. But what heartens me, as you say, to the system is lots of players are now cleverly moving. It's almost, you come away from this game thinking it's somewhat interchangeable who the players are, and I haven't felt that until now. It feels like it's clicking, and that players know the system rather than you're reliant on the exact 11 on the field. And one of the things I enjoyed again today was when we brought on the subs, they all got with the program, whereas very often when Arsene would sub, you kind of felt it was the A team, and then he'd bring on the subs, and we'd play quite differently. We'd either have a version of bring on all the full backs and we'd sit back, or we'd throw everybody at attacking. Now that's an exaggeration, but I really felt when we brought on the subs this time, we did some subtle tweaks, but we kept playing in a very similar way. With somewhat different players. So I think, to your point, execution of this system, and there are tweaks. We're not as gung-ho about possession. We're more comfortable at counter-attacking. I never felt in recent years we were particularly good at counter-attacking, and now we're fucking brilliant at it, at least a couple of times a game. And I really think it's just execution and understanding, and maybe there's something at a tactical level that I'm missing. But today felt not a million miles from what Arsene was trying to do, but maybe wasn't executing as well. And maybe we have 2 or 3 players that should have been in the team a year or two ago for Arsene.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we definitely seem to be is more disciplined and predictably compact and disciplined through the center of the pitch out of possession. And where we're pressing, it's funny, you had said on a previous podcast, we're not a pressing team, and I had agreed with you. I think we are a pressing team, but in the middle third. What seems clear, and this is where I think Arsene, we disappointed under Arsene, is we gave opposition too many times possession in central midfield with no pressure on the ball. And those were situations that we handled very poorly in a lot of cases. And tonight, I can't remember Jamie Vardy getting in behind ever, not once in this game. And I think a big reason for that, and we know we don't have the best central defenders, and we know we don't have the best ability to hold a line. I mean, we saw that on one of their set pieces where Lacazette, I think it was, played everybody onside, and Leno had to make an incredible save. But we pressed in central midfield. And so you had Ozil and Lacazette sort of on the halfway stripe. You had Xhaka and Torreira maybe 10 yards behind them. You had Iwobi and Mkhitaryan tucking in a little bit, so there weren't channels to pass into the half spaces or through the center of the pitch. And wherever the ball went in central midfield triggered the press, someone dropping back and someone stepping up. So Lacazette or Torreira stepping back and up, respectively, or Ozil and Xhaka. Now, Xhaka wasn't quite as good at it because that's not his strong suit, and that was where we had some trouble. And we saw Xhaka give away, some bad fouls in that position. Where he could have had actually another card, but that's beside the point. So, I mean, Clive, let's do this. Let's finish off this sort of pedantic discussion of
oh man, I want to get a little bit of that.
That's what I'm saying. I want to ask you. I'm saying, so let's finish off this pedantic discussion of system before we get into specific moments of the match. And I also want to spend a lot of time in the second half because it was so brilliant. But why don't you chime in on how you see that system and whether you agree with how we're looking at it?
All right. So I think there's a basis to a system. But I think the system is interchangeable. Simple as that, right? So you've got 2 centre-backs and 2 in front. That's the basis of his system, with mobile fullbacks, right? What happens ahead has varied, right? Sometimes we play with 10. Sometimes we play with almost 2 squares. You have the base square and the higher square. So I think we play with 2 8.5s or 2 10s behind 2 forwards, right? But what's consistent and what has been consistent since the start has been the 2 in front and the 2 centre backs, and the activity of the fullbacks, right? So you can say where the line was, defensive line. It's been high on occasion without pressure. We've changed the personnel. We've added a bit more intensity in the middle of the pitch, and suddenly we're not getting picked off so much. So we're giving away less one-on-one chances than we saw against, say, Watford and Everton. But that 2 in front, and it comes back to the difference between what Wenger was doing. What Wenger was doing, he had 2 central defenders and 1 in front, and that 1 was Xhaka, who was not a presser, not very mobile. Oh, by the way, Xhaka, you have to make sure to start all our passing moves as well. So not only are you our chief defender that's going to stay there, not only are we playing to all of your weaknesses, but we want you to drive the car as well. And I think that's the big difference. You have the square, you have distances. You have distances when we have the ball, distances when we don't have the ball. And that, for me, is a far better, more adult, pragmatic shape. So what Wenger was doing was literally, you heard me say it before, boys, was playing without a safety net. So he still pushed the fullbacks on. He would still push Ramsey on. He still let Ozil do what he likes. So what he's saying now is, you 4, you know your jobs. The 2 in front, you can be a little bit more flexible, but be wary. You have to recover in and press the ball when you can. Lacazette, you are centre forward, but I'm sorry, mate, you've got to work back into the hole as well to make sure we give our defenders a respite. And so you've got players who are given free attacking roles with real discipline, pressing back, recovering, tackling consistently throughout the game. And we look fitter than them today. We look much fitter later in the game, much more intense. The gaps appeared and we picked them off. So I think it's really enjoyable to see a level of seriousness about your team shape. We have all at some point in a time shook our heads in disbelief at the disregard for the opposition, disregard for our own weaknesses, disregard for the game itself, the basis of the game. Protect your goal, protect your defenders, and he takes the game seriously, and I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a welcome thing to see, and I just think you see, look, we accused Arsene Wenger's football being jazz, and that doesn't mean there wasn't a plan loosely, but you see the difference in a plan that is drilled versus a plan that is just a scaffolding, so to speak, in that I really feel you're starting to see the players on the pitch, especially off the ball defensively, understand conceptually what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I don't want to go overboard with this because I know we have conceded quite a few chances, and tonight actually could have been worse. I say tonight, by the way, we're recording right at full time, which is kind of nice. We'll have this out for you in a timely fashion, which you know because you're listening to it right now. So there you go. Genius. Anyway, Paul, let's get some of the nasty stuff out of the way first, because there's some stuff in the first half that was not ideal, and we're going to spend definitely 2/3 of the podcast on the good stuff. But I would say that Xhaka had kind of a dodgy first half off the ball, but I also think Holding low-key maybe struggled tonight. He had a few situations where he was caught out. He had the handball thing, which should have been a penalty. He also was poor in possession. I think the biggest thing that Mustafi has added to his game, and he's not my favorite, but he looks so confident on the ball, whether he's stepping into midfield or whether he's distributing from deep. When Holding has to play out from the back, you can still see that extra thought in his head. It reminds me of Czech a little bit. Shift it to the other foot, look up, shift it to the other foot, look up. And their goal actually comes from, if you watch it back, Leno gives it out, and we play it a little bit intricately in the back, and Holding has a chance to just not get back inside, either to Mustafi or to Leno. But he's nervous about doing it because there's some Leicester players nearby, and he takes it onto his left foot towards the touchline, weaker foot, plays a poor out ball, and that starts the counterattack. And then we get unlucky with the deflection for a goal. And when people talk about regression to the mean on XG, it's these kinds of things, right? In our previous games, that deflection goes wide. In this game, it goes in, and that's how you find yourself behind 1-0. But, I mean, do you think it's fair to say that maybe Holding just struggling a little bit both on the ball and off the ball?
This was not his best game. Look, we play a really high line in a game like this, really high, and he's up against Iheanacho,
who is very good.
He was very good, and you can say what you like about him. His pace is fairly electric, and that's a big ask, and I think he was on the ropes. So I think he felt pretty exposed throughout this game, and now he made more mistakes than the high line and getting caught, and maybe his timing being a little off.
We'd be killing him for the handball if it got called.
Yeah, we did. I don't think those should be called, but I think they usually are.
You mean when you raise your hand and punch the ball away from opposition head?
Well, I didn't see lots of angles on it. It looked to me like he was bumping up against the other guy, which was going to push his arm up.
Clive, chime in just super quick, because I have to admit, I glanced at it and thought it was blatant penalty. Am I missing something? Which way do you see it?
Yeah, he did a good impression of Dirk Nowitzki there, didn't he? Right? It was a penalty. Well, he was off balance. I don't think he punched it. His hand was in an awkward position.
But the player's coming into his elbow, which extends his arm. Yeah. That's how I saw it. I'm not positive, but
okay. I don't think it's intentional. But it's one of those, Paul, when your hands above your head. Yep. It's referee gets a free one.
This isn't the Zapruder film. We can move on. It's not important enough. But let's finish the more central point and just continue your analysis of his performance generally.
Yeah, no, I think he just generally felt exposed here. He's been better more recently in other games. This was not his best outing. Mustafi and, for the most part, Leno, I think, really had good games, which maybe balanced it out a bit, but he could have been the weak link this time around. There's not too much to say on it apart from, he's reasonably quick, but he's not super quick. So games like this are going to expose him.
Yeah, and look, the good thing is, even when we weren't at our best in the first half, there were some things to like, and Leno is one of them. You want your keeper to make some spectacular saves, and he does. Clive, if I had to pick on one thing from this game that was worrying, I thought we took a step back in our set-piece defending, both on corners and on free kicks. They hit the crossbar with one. They should have scored from one where Lacazette played everyone onside. Is that really the other area where we'll have to look at the tape and kind of improve?
A little bit, but you have to think about their size, right? They got good delivery. They've got Ndidi. They got Maguire. They got Iheanacho. They got some really tall players in there, and they're Johnny Evans as well. And I'm thinking, you know what? We look quite small. But
the Maguire one is just bad play, right? Lacazette plays everyone onside. Bellerin's not alive to it. Is it Maguire? He's the one who heads it down, and Leno makes the exceptional save.
Yeah, he heads it down, but it's like, you know what? They were on their toes. They're having in football, you have to give people have their moment. right? The good thing about that is that we repelled them for most of that time. And when they eventually scored their goal, they deserved a goal in that period. But the way it happened was actually quite unluckily. The Maguire header was outstanding, and the save on Leno was beautifully soft-handed round the post because there were two players coming in on him, and I think that was excellent. And again, I've moaned many times about Arsenal not looking prepared for games, like they haven't looked at the opposition. Again, Leno, he read the game really well. When he saw his centre-backs under a little bit of stress, his starting position was really good. He would come out and sweep up. He was really quick off the line. That's why we never saw Vardy in those really scary situations coming out with check and maybe stealing a penalty, one of those favourite dives of his. I just thought we looked really quite good. Holding, again, we're back to the left footer on the left-hand side. Sometimes under pressure, you need to be on your good foot. And he just isn't sometimes, and the quality goes down. It's no criticism of him. It's just at the top level, you've got to be very two-footed to make sure that under pressure you can still retain the ball, and when you regain it, you can retain it, and that's a big part of the game because that forces transition. You get your first two passes off, and we're away, and they're in trouble, right? So, and that's what we're playing for. It's room for improvement there. But if you saw Callum Chambers playing at the weekend for Fulham against who they played, I can't remember now. They got
Cardiff,
beat
and they got walloped 4-2.
Yeah, 4-2, and I think he started at right wing back, then went to right back, and went to centre half, then got hooked at half time. Right, he's having a terrible time there at the moment. They're conceding, I think they conceded 24 goals so far this season. When I compare the two of them, I think Holding's miles ahead, and I always suspected he would be.
Yeah, I was thrilled when we sent Chambers out on loan, and you can see now that it was the right decision, and any of the recordings of me freaking out about him being sent on loan have been destroyed. So, yeah, you can't prove I ever had a hissy fit and said that it was a mad decision that we shouldn't have done it, because there's no tape of that exists.
What's your timeline tomorrow, mate?
Look, I'll raise my hand when I get them wrong, but this is one where I clearly did not get it wrong, but don't feel the need to go back to previous podcasts and check. Just take my word for it. Paul, we get the goal before halftime, and it's so important. And it's beautiful for Mesut Ozil. And it's interesting because I thought we had done a poor job crossing in the first half. One of the things I've loved about this season is when we get into wide positions, what do the players do? Cut it back to the penalty spot, to the top of the 18, and it's been resulting in really good chances and a lot of really good goals. And then this game, we were firing in those whipped-in crosses. There was one where Bellerin just whipped it right to Schmeichel, and it was really disappointing, But for the goal, it's a beautiful pullback, and Mesut Ozil's touch is perfect. That was a crucial goal and a crucial moment that probably changes the approach to the second half and everything about the game. Always a good time to score right before halftime, but how impressed were you with that goal?
Look, it was superb. Ozil, you can see his utter enjoyment of the moment, not just the goal. Wearing the captain's armband, you'd like to think that augurs well. We heard the reflection from Wenger, and I think it's a valid one, that players who don't have a World Cup or a national team to aim at can lose some motivation. But perhaps the thing that can pick Ozil up is the chance to really grow into a leader for the team. And I say that with some hesitation because I don't think it's the easiest thing for him, but it's that time in his life and his career where he can be that quiet leader and maybe step up. And maybe this game has given Emery the confidence to put more of those eggs in his basket at the number 10 spot, and him becoming more central. He needs to do it away from home too. And apparently he still had a sore back today, but if this is him with a sore back, I hope he breaks 5 vertebrae before we play the next one.
Okay, no, I'm going to disagree there. No.
Oh, okay.
I think whatever soreness he's got is enough or too much. So don't you put that in the world.
All right, never mind that. So no, I think it was huge. I think we talked about I agree with you on the pressing, but I did think about 5-10 minutes into this game, we were much more tenacious on our pressing in midfield than I'd seen in recent times. And we just seem to get stronger as the game goes on. And I don't know if some of that's just that we don't come out full force at the start, and the opposition do. And certainly Leicester were on it for the pressing. and as their energies drop, it's funny how often we come back towards the end of the first half and then into the second half. And I just think we build, or at least maintain, and other teams just can't maintain the intensity. And you see Ozil coming more and more into the game, or at least based on a few recent performances. So hopefully this is our way of doing it, and we just adjust a little better in the early stages to get that energy up a little bit quicker. But it's almost like their line slowly trailed down and we gradually ramped it up. But I do think we came at it in the first half, just not with quite enough intensity.
Yeah, and, it can be tough after an international break when the players have been away, and we will certainly have had, or at least I'm just guessing, if this is wrong, don't correct me, more players away on the international break than Leicester, so maybe that would have been a little bit sharper, and then we come into the game and we blew them away. The good news here is Leicester have been good, and this is not Fulham that we swept aside in the end. This is a good team. I think, even though we did give some chances early, I think I read on the internet that they had 5 chances on goal in the first 20 minutes or 25 minutes and 3 the rest of the game, something like that. So we really shut them down and dispirited them. Clive, let's talk about the second half and specifically the substitutions. This has been a theme all season, is Emery just having a way with the substitutions, getting it right, picking the right guys, using that bench to its greatest effect. And the thing that so impressed me is that he looked at the areas where there was a problem. I don't think this was the best day for Mkhitaryan. I think it's fair to say he was struggling. And Iwobi, to his credit, when this season started, I would have, while I did pick him as a breakout candidate, obviously, because, I've always thought the talent is in there. But I think you would have said that Mkhitaryan would probably be the more important player for us in our attack. But Iwobi has really made himself harder to take out. Mkhitaryan struggled today. He gets taken out. But then Lichtsteiner, who is struggling, the coach looks at it and says, I'm not scared to play without him and to slide Shaq into that position. So how impressed were you with the decision to bring on Aubameyang and Guendouzi, but also who he did it for and the influence, once again, that his substitutions had on the game?
Yeah, I was incredibly impressed with what he saw. I think the game was made for Aubameyang. We both said that at half-time. It was made for him, and I think it was going to shock them. Guendouzi, I just had a feeling for him. But I was thinking about Xhaka. I was thinking about Maddison, twisting him again and then getting the book in. I thought you got to take Xhaka out. So I'm thinking maybe Mkhitaryan and Xhaka for Guendouzi and Aubameyang. Well, that's pretty sensible, isn't it? But you know what? Who'd have thought he was going to take off the left back to keep Xhaka on the pitch? So you've got Vardy and Iheanacho pretty lively. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put Xhaka in the exposed wide areas at the back
with Aubameyang in front of him. Great, yeah, fire away.
Oh my God! Never saw that one coming, but it worked. He put us on the front foot, and it didn't matter what Xhaka was doing. He was hardly ever exposed. Actually did really well defensively and was very, very calm. And, of course, I thought Guendouzi looked absolutely tremendous in this game. Mm-hmm. Really, I thought...
Can I just jump in with a comment about that? The thing about Guendouzi that I see, because I thought he was pretty good, but what I'll say is interesting is when he has a little pressure on him, so off the ball, I just wish he'd up the intensity a tiny bit. Because when he has the ball at his feet and he looks up, he is so intelligent and so good on the ball. Off the ball, there were a few situations. Just watch the difference between him and Torreira. The way Torreira closes space and the way Guendouzi gives an extra yard. But no, I loved him, and I'll give my thoughts on him. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on him off the ball as well, because I still think that's the area where he just needs to liven up a little bit.
So I suppose it's a style thing, right? So you put him next to Xhaka, I don't think it works. You put him next to Torreira, it works. And you're right about some of his sort of cool play. He looks quiet. He's going through his cool frame of mind at the moment. I just want to jog, look good, stroke it. But when he puts the foot on the gas and then he drove through the midfield and just left them behind and nearly dinked Lacazette. Sorry, I think it's Aubameyang in late in the game. And he was furious because Aubameyang would have gone through and scored, right? So we left 3 goals on the pitch. I think what happened, in the substitutions were tremendous. They all added something. But what we did to Leicester was what was happening to us a year or so ago. Remember, I always refer back to the Everton Man City away games when they basically upped the intensity second half, ran us off our feet, and then ended up winning the game. We now doing that to everybody else. We're upping the intensity. We're moving the ball quickly, much more direct in our thinking. We're trusting our players to move the ball off 1-2 touch. So we're committing to run at full speed. When you commit to run in full speed in wide areas, you create separation, and it looks so simple, the crossing and the timing, because everyone trusts everybody to play the right pass at the right weight so they can commit to the next pass like chess. I know what it's going to do there. So if I commit early, I'm going to be ahead of my man. And you're seeing people pass the ball in with 3-yard separation. I mean, it is just wonderful what's happening here. And this is one, and I know Tim's not on, but this is one of those from inside the stadium. I'm getting loads of tweets telling me that the belief inside the stadium is changing, and people are exceptionally happy about what they're seeing. And I'd love to hear what the crowd are saying and mumbling about in the background, because what we're seeing is something very nice to watch.
Yeah.
I think today was a big fucking deal in that, because Fulham was brilliant, but you couldn't say anything but it's Fulham. And up till that, the results were great, but the performances weren't. I'm not worried about our XG stats today. We were fucking sensational.
Well, they were good, by the way.
Yeah,
they were good. They were good. Let's
Paul,
move.
One second, Elliot. One second. You know what? That's a great point, Paul. There. I used to look at StatZone a lot last year, and I love StatZone. I still have a little brief look at it, but it doesn't seem as important. Does that make sense? What it feels like seems more important than looking at the numbers. Do you see? Let's have a quick look at 600 passes. But I already know we killed them. I already know we overran them. I already know that we made them look stupid. We tested their technique, and we grew into the game. And that just feels more important to know that we made 600 passes to their 222, whatever it was. It was just, it's just great. It's great.
And what does it do to the confidence to get stronger and stronger and stronger as the game goes on and feel like you should have scored 6? I mean, it's...
Well, look, that is a testament to all this extra running we're doing. You say what you want about Emery and his training methods, but being fitter means finishing games better, and we are finishing games better, and there's no doubt in my mind that the fitness has something to do with that, and the way he's using the team, the way he's rotating it, the way he's making the subs, the different problems he's creating with those substitutions for the opposition, so they're not just solving the same problem over and over and over again. It is easy sometimes when you analyze this stuff to make it sound like what you're doing is taking a shot at Arsene Wenger, which is not how it's meant. It's just that there are certain differences this season that seem very clear to me, and those are a couple of them. You guys brought up stats, which in this business is what we call a segue. So we will segue to
Segue.
Sorry, my bad.
I've seen it spelt.
I got the pronunciation problem. So we will segue to Scott's stat section. It's going to be a real short one today. So if you don't like stats, just listen anyway. And if you do like stats, soak up every second. We're going to take a break. We'll talk to Scott when we come back. We're going to talk about Mesut Ozil stealing the show. Okay, now Scott joins us to break down the statistics of a match that didn't flatter Arsenal, that actually was a comprehensive victory in final adjudication, which is always nice. No regressing to the mean here. Scott's on Twitter at O_that_crab. Hello, Scott.
Hello.
Okay, so that was good, by the way. So the debate recently has been that Arsenal are sort of defying XG, defying gravity, that regression to the mean is coming, so to speak. There was some regression to the mean in this match. We can discuss that in a moment. But in terms of this underlying performance, it was every bit as good as the scoreline suggested. So what was the final total XG for this match?
All right. Yeah. So for this match, I had Arsenal with 3.1 and Leicester with 1.1. So it very fairly...
Wow. 3-1
what the actual performance was. So it's always good when that happens. And I think for the first time in a long time, actually, Arsenal came under their XG for a match, if it was ever so slightly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, so one of the questions I actually had for you, you have a shot placement model that you've been working on, and I noticed your shot placement model had our XG a little lower. And I wanted to ask you, so this gives value to shots based on where they're placed, but in situations like Aubameyang's goals, where the keeper has been taken out of it and you're shooting at the dead center of the goal, does your model actually penalize you for that? I mean, is that something that you have to work on with that model?
Exactly. Because I don't know where the keeper is, it just assumes that he's going to be cutting out the middle of the goal, but on those kinds of cutback passes where he was guarding another player down at the end line, he had to, he was just completely taken out by the cross. So both of those, so the first goal is a 0.19 and the second goal is a 0.20 when, in all realistic, those are much higher than that.
What does the quote naive model have those as?
So those ones, I think the 0.76 for both of them.
Wow. Ooh, that's your Aubameyang right there. So if I'm doing the math right, Aubameyang's XG for the match comes in around 1.5?
Yeah, so he's having a great day.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, well, before we get to Aubameyang and Lacazette, let's talk about the man of the match, Mesut Ozil. This is a guy who you joked your PPVA or progressive passing value added and offensive value added model was built for, except it hasn't been a great season for him in those statistics. But today he was off the charts once again. So maybe you can talk us through his offensive value added and his PPVA and what that means to the uninitiated.
Yeah, so today was a day where you really could see the value in his passing. So he led all players with the offensive value added of 0.76, with 0.72 of that coming from his passing. He added 0.05 with his shooting and 0.08 with his carrying of the ball.
So the 0.72 PPVA, where's that put him in terms of percentile for that kind
percentiles?
of
that's definitely a 90th percentile. There'll be certain games where people will get over 1, but getting over 0.5 is a really, really good game, and where he's at there is definitely in the 90th percentile of people that'll actually happen. This
is a quintessential Ozil performance, though, right? The statistics he had in this match, both the big ones like goals and assists, but also the more advanced metrics. This fits more with the profile of what you'd seen from Ozil throughout his Arsenal career, correct?
Exactly, yeah. So in this one, he actually ended up having 3 killer passes in this one, and all of them from open play. So a killer pass is one that has a value added greater than 0.05. So that would be like the pass that he did to Bellerin that set up the first goal for Aubameyang, where he just absolutely cut out, was it like probably
3 defenders?
or 4 players? Exactly, where just all of them were gone.
That's a great stat, by the way, that killer pass, because that's one that's not an assist, but he does the hardest part of that move.
Exactly. Bellerin's pass is perfect, but
yes.
That's not the one that sets everything up. The other thing from him, he was 5 of 5 on his passes into the box, which is just amazingly good. No one else completed more than 1. Oh no, actually, I see here there's someone had a 4 here, but still, it's he was just everything. He had 93% passing overall, which is amazing for how high up the pitch he plays. Those are the kind of numbers you normally see from center backs who normally just do passing sideways. So this was really back to his top form, and I was very happy to see that from him.
And playing in the 10, so maybe it is just a reminder that this is a player who's worth trying to build a system around a little bit. I'm not saying throw everything out with the wash, but maybe make sure you get him into this position if he can deliver performances like this. So another player who really, really impressed me, on a day when we scored some scintillating goals, a lot of the dirty work was done by Torreira. He also led us in passing. So both defensively and offensively, I think he stood out in this game. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, so I thought that he had a really good game. He was amazing on his ability to, recirculate the ball. He always seemed to be in the right spot when he was playing. His defensive numbers were all quite good. He was 84 of 92 passing, so yeah, 92, just under 92%. Very tidy.
Almost 100 passes from your quote defensive midfielder that's busy.
Exactly, yeah. No, he's 15 of 15 in the defensive third, 53 of 56 in the middle third. So he's not being careless with the ball, definitely taking care of it. Part of it is, I think, in that second half, Leicester were just so beat up by Arsenal. It was just amazing that they just didn't have any of the ball. Arsenal dominated everything, which was really good to see, because it seems like for too much, Arsenal this season have really kind of let the other team into the game too much, and in this one, Arsenal really just stepped on them and then didn't let them up until maybe like the last 5 or 10 minutes or something like that, when the game was already decided. So I was really, really happy about that. The other thing that I really like from Torreira is his ball recoveries. He had 13 in this match, which is really good. So I think that really shows that his positioning on cleaning up. So Leicester would try to clear the ball, but Torreira was was always there to get it. He actually even was 2 of 2 in aerial duels, which is not something you'd expect from a guy that has to be like 5'3", 5'4".
Yeah.
So he was really good there. 2 of 3 in his tackles with an interception. So I was very happy with him.
Let's get to the strikers for a second. And one person who did experience some regression is Lacazette. We've been talking about this. His shooting numbers are not sustainable. Historically, no one, not Lionel Messi, not anyone, is hitting the goal with whatever he was, like 50% of his shots and scoring with like a third of them or whatever it was. Today he experienced that regression. If you're going to do it on a day where you're winning 3-1 and where most of the misses actually came after the match was won. But I'm guessing that some of those chances show up as pretty big chances that he missed today.
Yeah, so he actually had one that was classified as a big chance, and he had an overall XG of 0.86. So that was definitely a good game. And, he did have one shot that was placed really well. It was his third shot. I'm trying to remember the exact one here, that it was actually probably a good save from Schmeichel, because that one came out as a 0.9 on the shot placement model. So he might have been unlucky to miss. That was the one that was actually the cutback that was right in front of the goal.
Yeah, he literally... So that's another one where your model probably breaks down because he shoots it into the corner, but it's literally the only part of the goal where Schmeichel is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's tough. And I think that's where you need just a bigger sample, and, you can look at certain things and say, okay, yeah, that was in the corner. That was still a good shot, but, in that situation, there really isn't a ton of the goal for him to shoot at. So I think that he played well. He's still getting in good spots, and yeah, sometimes you're not going to finish everything.
No, that's fair. Well, Aubameyang did, and he had tap-ins. This is what we thought we were getting with Aubameyang, a guy who can score 2 goals from point-blank range because his movement is good, and he just has a knack for being in the place to score tap-in goals. We already handled his XG, which was, what do you say, 1.5 in that range?
Yeah, so for 2 shots, 2 goals, 2 tap-ins, that's a good day at the office, and that's the kind of a poacher's goals that you'd expect from him, especially from his time at Dortmund. These are the kinds of things that he is just so good at. He anticipates getting to those spots for other players to be able to just provide him with a great shooting opportunity.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think it's easy to say that those are easy goals. So much good work has to be done before he gets the chance to tap them in, but also the running that he has to do to get to that spot. I mean, he's supposedly a wide player in that system. He's winding up basically center of the goal, 3 yards out at just the right time to...
Yeah, and I think that's where his elite speed over like 10 yards really shows because, I think for the Bellerin one, he starts... right at like the edge of the D at the 18-yard box. He sees the through ball from Ozil, and then he is just instantly there before the defense can even react. So he's the first one. So it's a good move. It's a easy tap in, but his ability to anticipate and get into the spot is still really good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it was great. Just one last quick question in terms of the midfield partner for Torreira. Granit Xhaka, I think he's developing his partnership with Torreira, but it looked like Torreira had more of the dominant role today. I mean, part of that because Xhaka's moved out to the nominal left back position second half, but anything from his game that stands out to you?
It's again worryingly high negative passing. He's really good at passing the ball, but he still has a few too many of those really kind of dumb moves that he does every once in a while. So he ended up with a 0.14, which is a solid, respectable number. But of that, it was a 0.4 positive and then a 0.25 negative. So it's like, come on, like just make the easy passes sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest frustration for me with Xhaka. I thought when Guendouzi came on, he actually looked really good. Again, Arsenal were totally in control of the match during that time, and there wasn't a ton of pressure on them in midfield, especially Leicester definitely pushed back in the second half where they were pressing high in the first, and that kind of caused some trouble for Xhaka. I would have liked to have seen better from him. All being said, it wasn't his worst performance, and he definitely still added some good stuff.
Yeah, I only asked because I think based on the Guendouzi performance, admittedly, like you said, at a time in the match when we were very much on top, he's going to be knocking on the door for that role. Torreira, however, certainly seems to have his position nailed down at this point, and all the best. So a happy spreadsheet today, right, Scott?
Yeah, and I will just say one thing. I was actually surprised how well he did as an auxiliary left back. I never want to see him do that ever again. but he didn't have any mistakes out there and actually seemed to do decent.
Agreed. Well, long may performances like today continue, and if they do, no one will be able to talk about regression because our underlying performances will warrant the results we're getting. It's Project 3 now, 3 to go. So we'll see what happens, and we'll talk to you after that match. Scott's on Twitter, _that_crab. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Elliot.
All right, we're going to take a short break and come back with Clive and Paul to finish off a podcast where we will mostly just wax poetic about the goals from the second half. Okay, we're back. Those are the key statistics in the match. Just a little palate wetter there. What, palate wetter? That sounds pretty gross. Panty wetter? Well, speaking of panty wetter, that's another segue. Let's wet some panties with a discussion of Mesut Ozil's second half performance. Yeah, thank you. That's what they pay me the no bucks for. So we're back with Clive and Paul.
You're
obviously,
overpaid.
No doubt. So let's talk about the second goal first because it happened before the third goal. Again, professionalism. It's just great execution. This is one of those moves that actually seems very, very simple until you realize how critical every little step in the execution is. And actually, it starts with Lacazette and Aubameyang exchanging some passes on the edge of the final third. They don't have a way in, so the ball recycles. It winds up with Guendouzi, slides it to Ozil, who's dropped deep. The ball he plays for Bellerin that splits the fullback and the center back and the midfielder who's dropped in is stunning. But what I love about the way Bellerin makes the run, it's not just a straight run. It's angled into that space, and he kind of does a body language thing where he starts running that says, like, okay, I'm going to make this run. If you play that ball, I'm going to get to the end of it. The weight is flawless, and then Bellerin's pass across the goal mouth to Aubameyang is brilliant, and the run from Aubameyang, a lot of people say, what is Aubameyang? What kind of striker is he? That finish is a tap-in, but it's a tap-in because of how intelligent the timing of the run is and where he runs to give Bellerin the best possible pass. Why don't you talk me through each player's role in that and how much you enjoyed it?
Jeez, I don't remember that well. I can tell you this much, though. Seeing Aubameyang ghosting in and just the pacing and the place. Him and Ozil, if no other fucker had taken a shot, we'd be on 100% completion for shots and goals. He had 2 shots on goal and he ghosted in twice. And this was a game in which Cutback FC, we played the ball out to the right and he was on the left. We've talked about this before. I think Clive's talked about this as well, how he'd like to see him on the right coming in for these. And I think that makes perfect sense. I think he'd be wonderful ghosting in on the right if we can have somebody on the left cutting it back in.
Well, yeah, you need a fullback on the left to do that. Presumably.
You need somebody to get up for
Bellerin's so special because his pace means that he can get on a ball like that. There's not a lot of fullbacks, I think, certainly none at our club, that are going to get on the end of that ball. But, the thing I think, is so brilliant about Aubameyang there is you look at where Lacazette ends that move, and he's standing basically at the top of the D in the center forward position, or he eventually winds up on the penalty spot. But he kind of occupies the attention of the defenders, and then Aubameyang's able to ghost in the space that he abandons. Clive, for me, it just seems obvious that Lacazette thrives with Aubameyang and Aubameyang thrives with Lacazette when he can get more into these spaces, when he's not totally out on the wing. So, watching this goal and then the one that came after it, do you feel that Emery has to ultimately start to find a way from the start of the game to use these two together and get them into these kinds of positions?
It sort of makes sense, and again, this is why I'm in no rush to reach the perfect 11. I think we're playing 3 games in 6 days, and there needs to be a level of rotation, right? There's no one the same 11 can't play these 3 games. And what I found really interesting was, the previous weeks, you notice how we've been very left-sided biased with Monreal. We've been over near 40% on the left side. We've immediately switched that to the right side because we knew we had the right fullback in that position, and Lacazette loaded on that side again, which means a little bit less jazz, a little bit more thought. We know we're struggling with left fullback. We know we're not going to be able to overlap. So rather than keep pushing that button and then getting caught, we stopped and went the other side and really pushed on the right hand side and got in. The interesting thing was with the front
Bellerin Clive had 80 passes, to your point. Mustafi 84, so you nailed it.
Yeah, and thank you, myself. And basically, do you remember when Aubameyang came on? And I think it might be in the first couple of minutes. They did a couple of 1-2s, him and Lacazette, and they tried it, and they just started to connect almost immediately. And you look at it, you think, cracky, both of them look different immediately. Like they spark off each other. I mean, we know this stuff.
They were exchanging passes right off, just bing, 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 right, looking for each other. Playing. You know what reminded me of a little Ozil and Alexis when they were on the pitch together at the peak of their powers together. They were always looking for each other because they knew they were two of the most dangerous guys on the pitch.
Yeah, but immediately they could find each other blindfold. Backheel passes, receiving it back 1-2s, standing still, holding people off. Bosh, get off me, turn around, and they immediately dropped off. You get a bit of space, we can get in between the lines. I mean, the chemistry they give off to the fan, but imagine what they're doing to the defenders. They're thinking, crikey, these two can find each other whenever they like. They stay on the same line. They do step overs. They let the ball go straight through around the other side. I mean, it is just slick. They need each other. I saw some tweets saying in the first half, Lacazette looked like Lacazette of last season without Aubameyang. I thought it was a little bit harsh because we were struggling as a team, but within that feedback, there's a hint of truth. The moment he came on, they both looked brilliant, and Lacazette left 2 goals out there, as we know. So yeah, it's great, mate. But don't worry, we got 3 games. We got Seville. Maybe they'll play them there, right? And maybe Aubameyang will play against Palace away, and we got to think of it as a 3-game stretch.
Yeah.
As Clive's talking there, I'm thinking of, he's saying what are opposition teams thinking when they see Lacazette and Aubameyang. It reminds me of that line from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where they're looking off into the distance at the posse that keeps following them no matter where they go. And one of them says, "Who are those guys?"
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking, Paul. We're always on the same wavelength. That's what I love about podcasting with you.
I think I said Seville. I meant Lisbon. Sorry,
Libson. Yeah, no, that's same difference. Honestly, there's no test on this. So, look, I mean, watching Ozil tonight was just so extraordinary, and he's so underrated for his ability to maintain control of the ball and how hard he is to get off the ball. And one of the things I love in tight spaces that he does, you know how he'll be like in transition. There'll be a guy about to press him or try to take the ball from him, he chops it back onto his other foot. You know what I mean? The one where he chops it back the other way, and it always beats the defender. Like he has no answer for it. It's brilliant. The third goal is another one of those special ones, like the one Ramsey scored with the back heel the other day. And this one involves so many special moves. Underrated part of it is I think it's Guendouzi passes to Torreira, a long line-breaking pass out from the back that starts the move. And actually for the first goal, I think Torreira plays a good out ball from defense. And so I thought our play out from back to front for all the goals was really good. These are really transition moves. And you made the point earlier, Paul.
It's Torreira to Ozil who flicks it in the midfield.
Yes. Yep. That's right. Yep. And I mean, you said this.
Guendouzi bangs it up the wing to Bellerin, who knocks it
to Ozil for the dummy. Keeps running
does the dummy. Mm-hmm. Lacazette, Ozil, Aubameyang. Oh, man, Jesus.
It's special.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it right now. The thing that's so incredible is, so Ozil dummies it to Lacazette, but he has the presence of mind after the dummy. He does this little pirouette to keep running. And then the way he chops the ball to Aubameyang with the outside of his left foot to just get it over Schmeichel so that Aubameyang can tap it in is extraordinary. And he has an equally beautiful pass, by the way, cutting between 2 defenders for Lacazette for the sitter that he misses later in the match. This is also at the peak of his powers. I mean, Clive, we debate whether he deserves $350,000 a week, and this debate will rage on anytime he has a game that's less than extraordinary. But he's a match winner tonight, and that's form that very few players can hit. And he has 3 different involvements in this match that lead to 3 goals that there aren't many players in the world that can do, and should have been a 4th or even a 5th. I mean, when you see Ozil in this kind of form, it's not bittersweet. It's absolutely extraordinary. But is this just sort of a subtle reminder to us, for some of us who needed it, that he is still, from a talent standpoint at the position he plays, able to produce performances that few players in the world can produce?
Well, I waver on him at times. I'll be honest with you. I waver on
we
him.
all
I think
do.
sometimes he looks weak. He looks, his body language is not good. I'm not one of these people that say you got to roll his sleeves up and do slide tackles, but I like to see a little bit more protection of the ball on occasion, not let people tear through you and break on us. But then I also don't want to go overboard about his performance tonight. Some of the things he did will stay in my memory for a long time. But he needed other people. There were lots of other people involved in high-class performances. I think we have a tendency sometimes to really put people on pedestals when they don't always deserve it to remain there. What we see about 6 or 7 top-class performances to overcome a good Leicester team. And I'm watching Ozil running around Harry Maguire, the English hero who we all like. He looks absolutely stupid on that goal. Doesn't know where to stand. Completely turned around. Show him your number. He's looking at a linesman thinking, "Oh my God, please put the flag up because please put the flag up because I'm looking pretty bad here." But another good thing about that move, Iwobi charges down the right hand side. And Johnny Evans then goes deep. So he's so deep that Ozil's never offside. It's a side foot. There's more to this than just the step over and the reverse pass. And I think I'm pleased that Ozil's playing well. I'm pleased he's been given responsibility. I'm pleased that he's now having to travel to Eastern Europe for the Europa League. I don't care about his bad back. I wanted him, if he could negotiate that deal, fair play to you. But then own it. Own it, mate. You're the highest paid player in the team. Own it. Be that person. Take charge of this team when you need to, when we're 1-0 down at home. And he did exactly that, and I think he deserves a fair amount of praise.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's right. And, it is a reminder of how important it is sometimes, if you're going to win games and win trophies, to get the most out of your best players, because they're ultimately the ones that can change matches. I mean, Aubameyang gets a brace tonight doing what he does best, arriving into positions to score what would be easy goals if it weren't for how much great movement it takes to get into those positions. Ozil does what he does best, occupying the number 10 role, popping into space and delivering balls that few can deliver. And the goal, which is, an extra bonus really for his match. But even without the goal, he could have had a hat trick of assists tonight if Lacazette has his finishing boots on.
Extra boner.
As an extra boner, too. Yeah, it's always great to have an extra boner. No.
That goal.
No, it's not.
I had this girlfriend once. Elliot.
No.
What do you think of your next question? Absolutely sensational in bed. And then the next night she'd have a sore back. And the other thing was we'd planned this weekend in Newcastle and she was a no-show. So, I kind of know what he goes through.
That's not even like a parable. That's just you replacing girlfriend and in bed for Ozil and on the pitch. But I take your point.
Oh, okay.
So Paul, look, we see Ozil play in the 10 tonight, and he's given the options ahead of him, especially in the second half. Lacazette, Aubameyang, there they are. They're your goal scorers. You're in the 10. Run the show. As Emery starts to learn his team more, and especially if Ramsey is maybe off, and we can come on to that just a tiny little bit before we're done here, but is this what Emery has to try to do? Is this the puzzle that he ultimately always had to solve and maybe is now closer to solving, which is, how do I sort the pieces and what system do I put in a place where I can have Ozil in a position for him to thrive and give him the options in front of him so that we can be our best attacking possibility?
I think it exactly is, and this is a benchmark performance. It's a template. And you've got to ask, why could we not do this basically in every game from here on forward, especially when you consider the number of players we moved around before the game and in the game. This is the level we've got to play to, and it's hard to imagine Ozil doing this from the right. He might have done a piece of this tonight from the right or from the left, but you can't have multiple free players in the team. And Ozil himself can't be as free as maybe he has been in previous seasons or previous times. I think he put in a decent shift in this, and you could see him closing down players and grafting, etc. And I think we've seen quite a bit of this season. I think he's actually got a bit of religion on Emery's system, and he's believing. But this is the marker. Can we keep doing this? I don't see why we can't, except playing at this level's exceptional. And then we'll have to win the games that, where we're just not quite firing and nobody really knows why. It's deeper into the season. But if we can keep this streak we have at the moment and this confidence, I mean, we've won games where we were not too startling, but mentally we seem pretty strong as the game goes on. It won't just be belief because we're winning. We're winning because of belief and because of focus and because of sticking with it. And yeah, a bit of luck, but we all know the maxim about luck, right? Whatever it is, I'll never forget it.
You have more of it when you have an extra boner, or it was good in bed when it was your ex-girlfriend.
I was lucky to meet that girl who. No, never mind.
Anyway,
you make your own luck.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at this now, and here's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, 6 goals scored. He's one off Eden Hazard for league lead. He's coming off the bench. This is supposed to be, we don't know how to fit Aubameyang into the system, and yet he seems to be fitting in just fine. It's 4 goals and 2 substitute appearances on the trot, so that's not so bad. And now, we're 1 game away from completing this Project 24 that Clive dubbed, and it's
incredible.
It's really, really incredible, and it certainly...
I was Project 18, I've got to admit.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are renowned for your negativity, but Clive... I mean, in the context of the club and what it meant, coming off 2 losses to start the season under a new coach after all those years of Arsene Wenger and players working harder, needing to buy into a system, how important has this run been for the club, for the supporters, and how far can it carry us?
We spoke about this before. I think these 8 games were stretched out, the 8 league games were stretched out in front. And I just said to myself, if I was a manager, I'd say, how many points do I get out of 24? As simple as that. Project 24, how many points could we get? I thought we'd get about 21, 20, so points. But here we are with the potential getting all 24. And I for me, even in those first couple of games, you know what? The most disappointing game so far for me has been Chelsea, actually, because I thought we really had them. But maybe in hindsight, that would have put us above the radar. Too soon. If we'd have gone to Chelsea and won, we'd have got this Hyper Bowl, and basically, I'm not so sure we would have done so well. But it focused us against West Ham. We weren't great against West Ham, but we won that game, and then we started to roll from there on in. And again, what we're seeing,
we've ruined that staying off the radar thing tonight, Clive, with those bloody goals.
Well, you know what? Over here, we get Graham Souness and Jamie Carragher on the television over here, and Graham Souness is trying his best to say how lucky we were. And I had to come and do the podcast. I haven't heard what Carragher said. But I'm telling everybody, right, that is not a lucky performance tonight. The lines that we were playing, that when you do those overs in centre midfield, That's planned. That's people that know each other. That's people that are communicating. That's people on the same wavelength. You're getting people moving into position because they trust the person who's going to pass it to them on time. They're not going to turn away, do a little shake and bake and roll it square, get dispossessed, and we're running back towards our goal looking really slow. They're making teams defend. They're making teams work in their box. We're making defenders look tired. And we're not the super fastest team out there. And again, if you think forward, if we have this mentality and this direct, normal way of playing football with the talent that we have, and we add more devastation still in fullback areas and a bit more power at centre-back, this team has got something going under this manager, and I have to say I am extremely impressed by him. His understanding of the game, his understanding of the fundamentals of the game, and how he's applying that to the players. And we can all see the difference, and there's so many examples, and the chief one for me is Alex Iwobi, to see the difference in his confidence and the things he's trying, and how you feel when he goes into close spaces. You're not thinking he's going to lose it. He's not thinking he's going to lose it. He said, yeah, come to me, and he's going through your legs. I mean, it's just a joke what he's doing on the ball at the moment. It is a joke. He's so confident, he's so up there that he's never coming off that pitch, right? And it just looks fantastic, and I'm very, very excited about what we saw tonight.
Yeah, it's great to watch, and the goals we're scoring are really encouraging, and we're getting the most out of the kinds of players we need to get the most out of to be good. Mesut Ozil, Lacazette, Aubameyang. I think we would have liked to have gotten a little more from Ramsey. I do want to just touch on his cameo real quick. I mean, Paulie comes into the game at a weird time. It's already won. It's over. We're probably being a little over elaborate at that point. We could have had more goals in this game. I don't think Ramsey was super sharp. I mean, do you have any thoughts on where we go with Ramsey? I mean, is it maybe time to start seeing him as super sub or rotational option, knowing that he's probably not staying, and say, let's build around this core of other players who seem to be clicking now?
Yeah, I think so. On the other hand, it's early days, right? We got to settle into a new normal. I think they need to make a clean decision, and hopefully they have in the background as to what they're doing. I don't know if it necessarily helps if it's a could it be on again, off again thing all season. I think it's distracting. It might just be better to settle into whatever it is we're doing. And if we have decided that's not where we're going to spend 200 and something or other thousand in wages, then so be it. I thought his body language was pretty good coming on for this. I know you can't overdo this shit.
Yeah, it seemed fine. I mean, I don't think he's the kind of player who's going to cause a problem. Yeah,
and I think that's right. I think he'll want to do well for his own reasons. I think if we can play great football without him being central to it, that may not be the worst thing. Shh, Klaus. Shh.
Your dog doesn't want him anywhere near the squad. That's for sure.
Somebody's got to kind of take a backseat here at this point in the season, and maybe, later on in the season will be his time to shine. There'll be an injury or whatever, God forbid, but they do happen, and it'll be his time to step up, and it'll work for both sides. But I kind of liked. I agree, he didn't exactly have an opportunity to shine in this, but I did like how he came on. He was our last man on, if I remember right, and he just got the 10 minutes at the end. But he came on, he came to play, he was positive, and I think that's all right for both sides. I mean, both sides made their decisions. He's had offers on the table. We apparently had an offer on the table, and then we decided we didn't have one. So everybody made their choices to this point, and it's at where it's at, and there's always somebody loses out one way or another. I don't want to hand wave. He's a good guy, and he's a professional guy.
I don't want to hand wave a player like Ramsey and be like, well, if he's off, he's off, because he is a more important and more talented player than that. But sometimes circumstance deals you opportunity. Where when God opens a window,
the devil shuts a door.
Yeah, and anyway, so now that we've cleared that up, no, I think for me, when you see Mesut Ozil in this imperious form playing the number 10 and how natural the position suits him and how unnatural the other positions have looked for him, and you see the way the side is constructed with Torreira and Xhaka and Guendouzi really hammering on the door as someone who can make a huge difference, maybe Ramsey not re-signing and that failure to re-sign, meaning that Emery feels just a little more free to use him rotationally or as a substitute or intermittently, just helps the final stages of this plan come together a little bit. And it doesn't mean that you don't use him. It doesn't mean that he's not important. It just means maybe you feel liberated from the need to shoehorn him into the team, and that lets the team have just a little more balance. Because the role Ramsey was being used in not only didn't seem to fit him early this season, but it seemed to push Ozil into a role that didn't suit him as well. So, look, I would miss Ramsey, and I think he is criminally underrated by some segments of our fan base that are on this podcast that are named Clive. But, I think it's... I'm kidding. But I think it is an opportunity. Clive, we have to do two things real quick before we say goodbye. One is I think we do have to come back to Torreira just a bit. He led us in passing tonight. Now, that probably would have been Ozil had he stayed on the whole game, but it was Torreira. His knack for knowing when to step up and intercept the ball, when to drop off, fill the passing lanes, his engine, his ability to pick up the ball and be progressive with it, to touch it around a defender. He's a lot more comfortable on the ball than I think people made him out to be. Emery was very patient getting him into the side, but he's in the side now, and he looks like the glue that holds this all together for me.
Yep. He's actually very easy to analyze, isn't he? Because he's got such clarity about his game. And when he goes on the pitch, even in some of the substitute appearances, you just watch him jog on. He just jogs on, stands in the middle, and says, "Right, let's go. This is me here. You lot do your stuff. This is me here. I'm
if ever a man knows his job,
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I've been saying for years about said Aaron Ramsey, right? He hasn't defined himself, right? It's very important you define yourself in any job you're doing in life. Define yourself, define your work style, define how you operate, and make sure it suits the environment that you're in. I bet Ramsey secretly is incredibly frustrated with what's happening right now, because I think his agent has overplayed his hand. And basically, Ramsey could easily suit this team. The ball's moving quickly through people, and I think Ramsey could have learned a lot from a manager that made him do certain jobs rather than let him do what he likes. I think if this guy had come along a couple of years ago, who knows what could have happened, right? But what's happened is people like Torreira, people like Guendouzi, the uptick in Xhaka, the uptick in Iwobi, they've just made his football replaceable, I'm afraid. And we haven't seen Maitland-Niles in there yet neither. And Emil Smith-Rowe appeared out of nowhere. So the picture has changed in 6 months because the manager's come on and improved all of those players or brought those players into the club. So Aaron Ramsey's there with no particular definition to his game. His game could be Ozil's game, it could be Guendouzi's game, it could be all these players' game, but the separation is not enough for the money that he's requiring. And I think, I'm not his biggest fan, but I've got a tinge of sadness about that, Elliot, actually, that he potentially could have been a better player for us if he was told what to do. Yeah. Much more. And I think there's a tinge of sadness there. With Torreira now, we can all see him, can't we? We could actually never talk about him again because it's not going to change. He is going to play like that every single week for the rest of the season as long as he's fit. Yeah. Because he knows what he's doing. We could just stop it right there because we're just going to repeat ourselves because he's that good at what he's doing. I think. And it was
interesting the manager didn't use the chance to take him off when he was limping.
Yeah. He likes a limp, doesn't he? He likes a limp. Yeah. He gets a South American, right? He gets killed, chopped off at the knees. He limps around. The next game, he looks like he's brand new again.
I believe that's called a pimp walk, is what that's called. I could be wrong about that. By the way, quite hilariously, Hector Bellerin has just tweeted out 1 goal, 2 assists, laughing face, eyes. So great game for Bellerin. 1 goal and 2 assists. I thought that was quite funny as well.
They did interview him afterwards, Elliot, and he had the mic so far up his nose. It's quite funny. I'm sure someone's going to post pictures of that later. So awesome. The mic was covering half of his face. So it's quite funny.
I do love Hector Bellerin.
The celebration of the players after those the 2 wonder goals, really the 3 wonder goals, but it built and built. I mean, they were incredulous to those goals, and the celebrations with the fans were just wonderful. Just looking back as I looked at the highlights there again and again, man, the celebrations.
Goals. Yeah. Footballers' goals, the type of goals that footballers really appreciate because it needed a level of timing and collectiveness and things like that. It was
art.
They love that. They love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
so let's finish with the most important thing. I've saved it for the end. I stopped paying attention to you guys, so if I was supposed to respond to something that you were saying, I apologize. Manchester United are within 7 points of us now, so we certainly have to keep an eye on them. I want to talk about what I see as just sort of a disgraceful moment in football, because this is an Arsenal podcast, but it is a football podcast too, and there are some things that should be addressed when they happen. We have addressed some other disgraceful things that have happened around the world of football. So I don't know if you saw it, but Chelsea got a late equalizer against United at the weekend. And some Chelsea staffer, some member of the coaching staff, I don't know, it's disgraceful. He walks right by Mourinho. He's within 3 feet of him, celebrates right in his face. He has a clear opportunity to kick him right in the nuts and passes on it. I don't know where football's going, but Paul, this is disgrace. He's got to kick him in the nuts there. What's he thinking?
It's there. I mean, to be fair, right, you can say he can't miss that, but you can. You can miss those. And I think he froze. He's not an attacker, right? He's not a striker. He just didn't expect to have it there in front of him.
It was all sitting there for him.
Yep.
And he just didn't take the chance. I mean, Clive,
he froze.
You are a coach. You know what it's like to be on the touchline. How hard is it in that situation to get the kick in? I mean, do you think he could have made a lunge and gotten Jose's nuts, or do you think it's just asking too much?
I think Jose was unhappy because he was about to do one of his new camp runs on the pitch and sliding his knees jobs at Stamford Bridge, and he had it taken away from him. He was absolutely mortified. He had his moment lined up. He was going to shush the crowd. He was going to do everything because it's all about him, as we well know, right? So, but he still managed to make a moment all about him, and I suppose, in fact,
that's all that matters. And look, I think we can agree that having someone celebrate kind of sort of near you is a disgrace as compared to, I don't know, gouging someone's eyes out on the touchline. But it's all okay because they are on 14 points from 9 games. Fucking super club. We are on 21 points from 9 games. We have a plus 11 goal difference. We have scored 22 goals in the league, second only to Manchester City, who are on just a teensy tiny little 23 goal difference. 26 scored, 3 conceded. Not bad. Liverpool on 23. Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham, 21, 21, 21. So it's going to be interesting. We have positioned ourselves right where you want to be.
Elliot. But our goals.
They have been the finest in the land, let me tell you that. Liverpool now on the horizon, so that's coming up. But next, we will be playing in Lisbon, or as Clive refers to it, Seville. I've heard it both ways. So that should be interesting. We will definitely have a podcast for you after that. Might have a halftime show. We'll see if we can manage it. But just really quickly, you guys, any expectations for that match? Clive, anything in particular you're looking for there? Rotation, not rotation, heavy win?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable. It'd be interesting to see where Danny Welbeck is. He had a little hamstring before during the England game, so let's see how long that is. Hopefully he'll get one of these 2 games in because we're going to need that freshness. Again, Lacazette looked a little bit leggy in this game at a certain point until Aubameyang came on. And I'm not worried. We need a left back. That's what we need. That's the most important thing.
Well, it's Monday, Thursday, Sunday. So, these players need to start getting fit.
I wouldn't mind seeing Socrates back as well. I think he's a good player and we miss him. Right? I'm not saying anyone else is doing bad because I thought Mustafi in particular did well, but I like the authority he was showing before he got injured. Yeah,
agreed. Paul, I mean, would you expect some rotation? The one thing we know is that, the fixture congestion is starting to happen now, but if we can get a win in Seville or Lisbon, whichever one it is, then, we are right on track to I think we'll be qualified potentially, and then, be really in the driver's seat for topping the group, so that you maybe make it easier on yourself in the coming months if you take this game seriously. I mean, how do you expect Emery to approach it?
Your line's breaking up a little bit there, Elliot. You're saying something about a civil lesbian. I don't see why she shouldn't be. But in terms of the game coming up, which I think is more germane to what we should be talking about, I can see quite a bit of rotation. I don't see why not. Everything's going good. Everybody plays as good as anybody else, at least in the last 2 games. So, yeah, I think there'll be plenty of rotation. It's going to be a busy week, and we got the good fields. No reason not to rotate. I think we'll do well. I think we'll be in good shape in the Europa League, and the good fields will keep feeling.
So when the podcast comes out, listen to it, and then text me or something. Let me know what you thought of that. What you thought of that joke? Because I think you can workshop that one and maybe take it out of the routine. Just my thought. Clive's on Twitter at ClivePAFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Paul's on Twitter at Pause in My Pants. Thank you, Pause.
Woohoo!
My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Give us a 5-star review. Write nasty things about us in the comments, especially about Tim. He will be back. He was at the game tonight at the actual Emirates Stadium where the game was played. So, he had a front row seat, and maybe when we talk to him next, we can get his thoughts on how it looked in the ground. I know Clive wants to hear about that. Maybe we'll do a little of that in the back channel and then bring that to the podcast. Tim did a great match preview of this one. So remember, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you will get access to Tim's match previews. You'll get access to our In the Spotlight podcast. You'll get access to all the special content, including recordings of the halftime show. But whether you are a Patreon subscriber or just a listener to this podcast, we love you and we thank you. And we couldn't be more appreciative of you taking the time out of your day to listen to us ramble about the Arsenal and tell really, really bad jokes and confuse major European cities for one another and pronounce names wrong, because that's what this podcast is all about, if nothing else. In any event, we will talk to you after Sporting Sevilla Lisbon 0, Arsenal 10.